You're the kind of brother that matured early. Either hung out with people older than yourself when you were growing up or influenced by older people. Want everything done in an organized manner, stable-minded, want other people to be able to depend on you and take a great sense of pride in what you do. Socially conscious. You'll always kind of know what's going on out here in the world. Kind person, wise, work best in partnerships. Willing to give others the benefit of the doubt when they tell you something. You want everybody to treat you fairly. Sensitive with a strong sense of family time. Detail-oriented, sociable, cheerful, get along well with others. Diplomatic, you always try to say the right thing at the right time. You're an optimist. See the bright side of life. Glass is always half full rather than half empty. Friendships are important to you. You're the kind that will give a friend a shirt off your back. Youthful energy, keep others smiling, express yourself well verbally. And no matter how many times life gets you down, you will always get back up.
Greetings, beautiful people. I hope you're having a fantastic day. This is our episode 1 of the Rules of Engagement. As a young man, I always desired to just be able to have cultivation, to have mentorship, to have people that can pour into me, help me get to the next level. Unfortunately, for most of those tender years, it came in the form of books, whether it was a John C. Maxwell self-help book, or if it was, what's another good one out there? Atomic Habits. And I noticed that the one thing about books is sometimes they don't talk back to you. Or you can visualize, but you can't really see exactly what they're talking about. So now in the day and age and the rules of podcasts, we have the ability to come together. And I want to come together with you this season at least 12 times to talk about the rules of engagement to help you fast track and level up. And you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to share with you personal details, stories of success and failures, but most importantly, the rules of engagement. Let's get into it. So there's a few things I want to run by you guys. We're looking at episode 1. Obviously, this is the introduction. Episode 2, defining success. It is so important that when you have SMART goals and measurable things, we'll talk about SMART goals. You got to wait for episode 2, but very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic time-bound goals, so that when you meet success, you're not finding yourself with imposter syndrome. You're not finding yourself in these rooms and these spaces where you feel like you don't belong or how did I get here? We're going to help you fast track that process. In episode 3, we're going to talk about mental resilience. Mental resilience. What does it really mean to have that mental fortitude, to build your mental muscle, to move those obstacles to the side, utilize credible resources, calculate the best possible outcomes, leave room for unexpected challenges and expect victory. In episode 4, we'll talk about effective communication. And it's so essential because so many people just don't know how to do it, and they don't do it effectively, right? Number 5 is setting goals and planning. Number 6, overcoming obstacles. We all have those challenges, and the beautiful thing about the rules of engagement is they are transferable skills. That's right, transferable skills. What this means is things that you learn in one industry, we can teach you how to apply them in others. Number 7, networking and relationships. They always say it's not your net worth, but your network that truly determines your value. Not just who you know, but who knows you and what would they call upon you for in your level of expertise. Number 8, probably one of my favorites, continuous learning. Is it a podcast? Is it a book? Is it a YouTube series like The Rules of Engagement? Make sure you guys subscribe. Number 9, financial literacy. It's really hard to achieve goals and secure bags if you don't know the fundamentals and the rules of engagement when it comes to your money, your finances, and most importantly, your future. Number 10, work-life balance. Some of us think, hey, as long as I put my head down, I grind it out, I do what I gotta do, I show up to work, I'm the first one there and I'm the last one to leave, that I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna be successful. That's not true. There's an amazing book and you should read it. I'm reading it right now. It's called Buy Back Your Time. When you get that work-life balance, you'll be able to take those trips. You'll be able to go to those recitals. You'll be able to spend that time with loved ones. You'll be able to have that fortitude and solace to yourself, right? You'll be able to just that, buy back your time. Number 12 is all about the reflection. right? So we set some goals in the beginning of this season, and over the next 12 episodes, y'all, we're going to make sure that we achieve them. So again, my name is Montreal Cain, and these are the rules of engagement. Let's get into it. So part of the reason why I started this podcast is because I noticed that in life, oftentimes we find ourselves upset. It could be with a partner, it could be with a spouse, it could be with a child, because we want them to move a certain type of way. And in all actuality, they weren't designed to move that way. Take a look at this chessboard. In your front line, your front row, you have things called a pawn. And a lot of times people look at pawns and sometimes they use it in a negative connotation, like, oh man, they just a pawn, they're a sacrificial lamb. But in all actuality, in the game of chess, you have the ability as a pawn to make it to the other side of the board, most of the time undetected, right? You're flying underneath the radar and you can become whatever is needed to get the victory in your goals. And so when we look at the pieces on the board and we understand the pawn, what does the pawn do? The pawn can move one space at a time, except on that first move. So what this means is, out of these 8 pieces on either side of the board, on my first move, I can either move one space or I could jump ahead 2. And that is the only time I can move 2 spaces at once. Imagine if you're on a job. Imagine if you are in the dating world. You're courting. You're looking for that spouse, right? Whatever it is that you have going on, you set the rules of engagement right in the beginning. There's things that you will accept. There's things that you would never accept, right? And when you understand this, you're setting the tone and the rules of engagement, kind of like a pawn. You can move and just go a space at a time, or you can say, look, I like you. You like me. We should be a happy family. I love this job. These are the roles that I am responsible for, but you would get the most out of me if you allowed me to do this. And sometimes we just got to take that leap of faith on that first move. Again, understand that the pawn is probably the most underestimated and highly valued piece on the board. Why? It's duplicated. There's 8 different pieces on your side of the board, right? And in life, when we're dealing with opposition, guess what? There's 8 different pieces on the other side too. So you have to understand how these roles work. Everybody wants to be a boss. Everybody wants to be a king. Everybody wants to be a queen, right? But in all actuality, some of us have the ability to serve in any role and be successful. You just have to understand, how does that piece move? And like the pawn, the goal is to move in a straight path. So if one piece is moved, the other piece is moved, both of us hopping out, there's something called a stalemate. In life, we find ourselves finding stuck. We might be stuck in a position where we feel like, I can't move forward, I can't advance. If this person doesn't do their job, then I can't do my job. If this piece doesn't align with that piece, I can't move forward. But in all actuality, beautiful people, you're not stuck. You just have to learn how to move differently. So let's talk about it. Again, when we look at these pawns, they're face to face, they're a place apart, and we see that I cannot move forward because I cannot take this piece. But one of the unique things about a pawn is that a pawn can move sideways. Has anybody ever came at you sideways in your life, said something crazy to you, talking out the side of their neck, and you wonder who they think they talking to, they coming at you sideways? Well, pawns tend to do that. And what ends up happening in that position is, even though after the first move it can only move one space at a time, imagine that there's another piece that's threatening your move. You have the opportunity to take that piece from the side. You can take it from the right or take it from the left. You just can't take it face on. And for some of you guys, that might be an email. Maybe you're dealing with the situation. You want to do a little CYA, cover your apple bottom, and you want to make sure that you're covering all bases, communication with leadership and shareholders and family members and stakeholders. Everybody knows what's going on. Maybe that's that email where you CC'd your supervisor, right? Because you want to make sure that you're still addressing the person directly, but you're adding a little reinforcement so you can move the opposition out the way. In addition to that, that might be a family meeting. Maybe you guys are talking about upgrading or adding on to the house, or what school we should go to, or what day we're going to do chores on, and you need to bring everyone together collectively. A lot of times as a pawn, you're moving forward to get to the next side of the board, to get to the opposing side of the board, to become whatever piece is needed. What this means is, a pawn can make it all the way to the other side of the board and become one of the fallen pieces that was already lost. You can become that knight. You can become that rook. You can become that bishop. You can become that king and queen. But I promise you this, it won't happen without opposition. So do not shrink stand up tall, get your posture together, fix your tie, right? Clean your purse, whatever it is, and go on fighting bravely. And know that the goal is to get it to the other side. It doesn't mean that you won't lose pieces on the way. It just means to understand the rules of engagement. My name is Montréal Cain. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
One, two, one, two. It's an easy kind of day. The sun is shining, and I'm chilling with my loved ones. It's the perfect kind of day, and from ear to ear I'm smiling while the children have fun. I'm glad I ain't got nothing planned to do, and I ain't got nowhere to be. I think I'll throw something on the grill, cause later on I'm trying to eat. Well, I'm alright if you're alright, and you can go anywhere you like. But as for me, if you don't mind, I'ma post up right here and unwind. I'm chillin' on Gucci, Gucci, baby, and that's the way I like it. That's the way that I like it. Wherever the four winds blow me, I don't care, I don't care. I'll be so delighted, I will be so delighted, yeah. You would think it was a Saturday, the way that I'm so chill right now, yeah. This is my way to celebrate, this is my mental getaway. This is my release therapy, my heaven on earth right here for me. But I ain't got nothing planned to do, and I ain't got nowhere to be. I think I'll throw something on the grill.
Thanks for you guys sticking in here with us, man. We're so helpful and just happy to have partnership with our sponsors, with our pillars that help us make this possible. So again, thank you guys for sticking in there with us. Now, we talked about the pawn on the way up here. Let's reset the board, right? We talked about how many spaces can we move. Right in the chat for me. As a pawn, do I go diagonally? Am I jumping all over people? Do I go straight? What ways can I roll? Put it in the chat for us. Can I go straight? Can I move one space? Can I move 5 spaces? Can I move 2 spaces? Which one is it? I know you got the answer. And if not, I recommend rewinding or taking rigorous notes, even doing a couple screenshots so you understand the rules of engagement. A lot of times we find ourselves in sticky positions because we didn't understand. We didn't know. You know, they say ignorance is bliss. They also say the road to hell is based off of ignorance. You don't know what you don't know. But guess what? Shout out to Uncle Charlie. Shout out to Milky Way Tech Club, man. Uncle Charlie, affectionately known as ChatGPT. With ChatGPT, you can find out a lot of information. You can download an app that can tell you exactly the information you want to know that's searched on the internet without you having to go to all the individual links. It'll get the answer for you. So if there's something I said you don't remember, how does a pawn move? ChatGPT it. We're not judging you here. We just want you to understand the rules of engagement. Now, we talked about the pawn. We talked about moving sideways. We talked about the things that we're going to discuss throughout this chapter. But again, let's dig a little bit deeper into the why. I had 2 amazing mentors in my early 20s. Shout out to Chris and Scott over at Info Magazine.
That's blowing off on its own. Been about 13 years for me. Where I am now and where he is, probably took me about 8 years to figure out where he is right now.
These gentlemen played chess all the time. I never took an interest. I thought it was too complicated. I would see them playing chess on a regular basis. Now, Scott and Chris are let's just say the champions of the east side of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a great place on a great lake. They had this small pocketbook size magazine, and they created these magazines and they were all over local pubs, restaurants, bars. You could find where to go and what to do in Milwaukee. And the thing was, I was a major Info magazine fan. As a matter of fact, I collected the magazine since I was 17 years old, right? But there came a time when I moved into my office space, and one day I see this huge photograph of one of the covers of the Info magazine. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I talked to my boy Micah. Hey, Micah, what's that about? Oh, man, you got to meet them. That's the dudes that make the magazine. Wait, you mean to tell me right here in this building where we have a recording studio, photography studio, marketing, all the stuff that we love to do in our spare time, right? Right down the hall is the Info magazine? Absolutely. And so he introduced me to him. I got to meet these guys, and they say when in Rome, do as the Romans. There was a moment in time after I met these gentlemen where they saw my light on in my office. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm 22 years old. They knock on the door. Hey, what you doing in there? They come on the inside. They look at my iMac computer. They see I'm working on a graphic. And Scott reaches over, grabs my mouse, and he changed the opacity of the graphic from color to black and white. And then he started to lighten it. And as he lightened the opacity, it kind of gave this beautiful watermark in the background. And then in the foreground, he took the same image, he made it smaller, he put it in color. And I'm just looking at the design principles of what he's doing, and I'm starting to notice, wait, I kind of see this design in everything that Info does. To this day, that one design technique that my mentor taught me is something I still go to and I use. That is the power of having people to invest in you. And had I not been grinding all night long, I'm in the office at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm working my butt off because there was a great man by the name of Eric Thomas that said, you got to want to be successful more than you could breathe.
He went to this guru, right? He told the guru, I want to be on the same level you on. And so the guru said, if you want to be on the same level I'm on, I'll meet you tomorrow at the beach at 4 a.m. He liked the beach. I said, I want to make money. I don't want to swim. Guru said, if you want to make money, I'll meet you tomorrow, 4 a.m. So the young man got there at 4 a.m. He all ready to rock and roll, got on the suit. The old man grabs his hand, said, how bad do you want to be successful? He said, real bad. He said, walk on out in the water. When he walks out to the water, it goes waist deep. So he like, this guy crazy. I want to make money. He got me out here swimming. So the old man said, I thought you said you wanted to be successful. He said, I do. He came, dropped his head in, held him down, hold him down. Just before my man was about to pass out, he raised him up. He said, I got a question for you. He said, when you were underwater, what did you want to do? I said, I wanted to breathe. He told the guy, he said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
Great man by the name of Eric Thomas that said, you got to want to be successful more than you could breathe. I'm a single father listening to this video at the time. And the only thing I could think about is, wait, if I was at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, I'd probably be joining a fraternity like Kappa Alpha Psi, yo to the noobs. And I'd be up all night. I'd be studying for exams. So at this moment in time, I found myself becoming magna cum laude of YouTube University, coming to platforms like YouTube to learn information. And now I'm pairing that with real life rules of engagement, mentors that can help me get to the next level, and specifically these two guys. Now, I will tell you this, that was one random occasion. But one of the things that I also noticed, everybody said with me, Wellness Wednesday. One more time, Wellness Wednesday, right? We'll talk about mental resilience more in episode 3. But I'll tell you this, the reason why I've had Wellness Wednesday for so long is because when I met Scott and Chris, they told me their secret to success. I will come to them between the hours of 9 to 5. And for you 9 to 5ers, that's when business is done, right? Not these guys. These gentlemen specifically worked as much as they could, except for 6 p.m. on a Wednesday night. 6 p.m. on a Wednesday night, it was their time. These were the times where the rock stars of the East Side, who had this Info magazine, got to work on something they love called Info. Now, I told you guys about Info, but the real company that they established and they incorporated and they do all these major websites from was Rockstar Designs. Look at Rockstar Designs in Milwaukee if you need an amazing website. With Rockstar, that took up all their time. Building websites, consulting with clients, doing logos, designing billboards, all kind of stuff. But Info magazine, that's where they got to be the most creative. And what I noticed was They had a pattern. They had a routine. They had particular places that they went at a certain time every single week. If you want to be successful in life, you have to find a routine. You got to get into a place. For some of you guys, you're already doing it. Maybe you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're on AM-led spirit, wisdom, and prayer on Clubhouse with World Outreach Ministries, right? That's a pattern. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., AM spirit-led wisdom and prayer. That's a pattern. For some of you guys, you at the gym. Maybe you like Damon, Uncle Muscle. You hitting it up at Planet Fitness with Cuzzo Yelly. Y'all getting it in. Planet Fitness at Midtown. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. You are consistently driving for results. You're building that, right? Maybe it's Unc and he's taking out Coco or something. Whatever it is that you do on a regular basis, maybe you like my mother. She used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just pray and listen to Shekinah Glory. You have to find your pattern, right? And in this case, for Scott and Chris, it was a place called Hooligans on the east side of Milwaukee, right off of Prospect, man. They would go to Hooligans at 6 p.m. And eventually, as we got cooler, they ordered something called the Montreal Wings. I'll tell you about that at another time. But what they did was they would sit down. They would have this big spreadsheet. It might show like 88 pictures or 88 icons that represent the pages in the magazine, and they would circle the ones that they wanted to feel. And this might be a story. This might be an exclusive that's in the magazine. And then they had other ones that might be grayed out, and those might be advertisements which help pay for the magazine. What was most important about this was their strategic time at 6 o'clock to give themselves permission to dream. I want to give you permission to dream. I'm so excited because in my day job, I work with a lot of young people, right? I work with the Running Rebels community organization, helping mentor young men.
It's our duty to fight. It's our duty to fight. It's our duty to win. It's our duty to win. It's our duty to fight. It's our duty to fight. It's our duty to win. It's our duty to win. Be the change on 3. 1, 2, 3. Be the change.
And we have a group called Be the Change that I've been leading for the last 3 years. We're in a nice circle in the gym starting off. We're developing that mental muscle. We're doing a wellness check-in, 0 out of 10, how you're feeling. And then we're going into the classroom settings or the community or to the park. And we're really developing their toolkit of success every single Monday. And what's so exciting about this is I pour into them, right? And sometimes they pour back into me. And what I noticed about just taking that information and bringing it all together is that young people can absorb things, but you got to give it to them in chunks. So just like Scott and Chris, they're looking at this magazine, they're opening it up, they're trying to see which pages are going to be filled, they're highlighting the areas of interest, and the most important thing is they kicking it back. Now, I got to be clear right here. Make sure you get you one. But theirs might have been, this is Milwaukee. They might have had a Miller High Light. And during that time, they're doing their thing. And there was this moment where I didn't understand the rules of engagement. I noticed that Scott and Chris, every now and then, they might enjoy an occasional cigarette. And I also noticed that when I was at the table, sometimes when they had the cigarette, they would go like this. They would put it behind them. I didn't realize I was isolating myself, that I was literally removing myself from the table. I did not realize at that moment in time, the favorite thing that they love to do on the day of the week of their choosing, there's now a person sitting at the table that doesn't understand the rules of engagement. So for months on end, I would stop by Scott and Chris's office, and when I walk up to Scott, he'd be working at his laptop like this, or his desktop, and he'd have his headphones on. I might tap him on the shoulder, and he would do this. He would move his headphones really slow. Take a deep breath and turn around and say, yes. And what that was, if in case you guys don't have a lot of emotional intelligence, what do you want? You bother me. I'm working right now. Love Scott, love Chris. But at that time, I didn't understand. Wait, you're on the clock. You have deadlines. It's not that you do or don't want to mentor. It's that your mentoring will not help you drive for results and have repeat customers. It won't have people making great reviews. It might make Montreal feel supported in that moment, but who has time for that?
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Right? So in that moment, I had to adapt to Wednesdays, 6 p.m. at Hooligans. There was no headphones at Hooligans. Nobody moved slow at that moment in time. But what's also really cool about it is, even though no one was moving slow at that time, right? It got us into a really unique position, y'all. It got me to understand that these gentlemen, they went from going like this, smoking cigarettes sometimes and putting their hand behind their back, to it got to a point where I actually stood up and walked away from the table. They went into what we're going to call the smoker's lounge. See, in the Smokers Lounge, it's a place where people who decide to enjoy an occasional cigarette or cigar, or maybe a cigar aficionado, this is a place where smokers are welcome. If you are a part of that club, you might have a lighter, you might have a Lucy, you might have something, right? This means that this is where you want to be, and no one should have to feel ashamed, or no one should have to take you into thoughtful consideration or how your hair or your clothes are going to smell, because everyone's a part of this culture. See, I wasn't a part of this culture. But one thing I did realize was I did every now and then enjoy a great cigar. Fat Bottom Betty's, delicious, nice, thick size cigar, very sweet in taste. What I'm telling you is it's a sweeter cigar. You know, if that's not really your thing, you might want to start with that, right? There's clubs, shout out to the Ash Gang here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the fellas that come together, talk about life, having it more abundantly, take a break from being husbands, wives, the routine demands, and they just enjoy occasional cigar. Those people might have a different style, but what I decided was, well, I couldn't do the cigarettes, but I could do a cigar. So guess what happened? The next time, no one had to leave the table because I had the cigar with me. Now I'm a part of the club. And what I also noticed was the time frame, the conversations became more and more enjoyable. Eventually they were asking me ideas. Hey, Montreal, what do you think? Hey, what do you think we should do? How can we really get down? I saw Scott and Chris for the first time in years, maybe 4 months ago. And the first thing that they said was, what are you drinking? And guess what I said? Hey, let me get a shot of pickle juice. See, one thing that I didn't understand about the culture was there were cigars, there were cigarettes, and there was pickle juice. Apparently, pickle juice, I guess, is something you chase down that takes away, what is that? Not the migraines, the hangovers. Also, if you don't want to drink alcohol, you can order pickle juice and no one looks at you weird. I didn't know this. But over those years spending time with my mentors, I realized I don't always have to do exactly what someone does to be a part. I just don't want to offend. The Bible says you could be in the world, but not of the world, right? And so that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy occasional beverage. It's just at this moment in time on a Wednesday night, a few months ago, I went to Hooligans because I expected my mentors to be there. In addition to that, I understood the rules of engagement. So when it was time to have that celebratory shot, hey, Montreal, how's it going? What's been going on with your brother? Hey, I'll take a shot of pickle juice. And they just smiled. Man, you remember that? How could I ever forget? But one of the most valuable things that my mentors did for me was they gave me permission to dream. They gave me hope. Chris was very logical. He would say, hey, Montreal, you know, there's going to come a time when you're sitting with decision makers, and in the process of sitting with those decision makers, you're going to have conversations, and you may be the lowest person on the totem pole. And by being the lowest person on the totem pole, what are you going to talk about at that time, right? And then there's Scott that comes in and says, hey man, Montreal, be a gift. You're a gift. Give them a gift. Give them something you'll never forget. When I tell you guys, this led me down a rabbit hole that I was so excited to explore. For the first time in my life, I had engaged with the #1 tech company in the world, that is Apple. Shout out to Apple. Shout out to R059 where I got my start. But engaging with Apple, it gave me a different level of authority. It gave me a different level of principles. It gave me a different understanding to engaging with people as a whole. It's the favorite job that I've ever worked. And I would have to compare working with Apple to getting a master's or a doctorate from Harvard or Yale. It's on the same level for me, right? The level of understanding about people I learned working with this organization. And so there was a moment where Apple found out that I was into film. Apple found out that I was into music. They found out I knew how to edit. They found out I was using our hero products at Apple in my own business, and I have my own marketing firm. And this led to a trip where I was flown out to Cupertino, California to be one of the few people that's ever played Steve Jobs' piano, right? The Steve Jobs. This is a true story. If it wasn't for great mentors like Scott and Chris, I would have known the rules of engagement of how to play at that level. See, the issue that some of us have is we're surrounded by people who we feel comfortable with. But when you select a great mentor, you should feel challenged. And those challenges will help you build that mental muscle, and that mental muscle will help you get to the next level. So the next time that you're in a space or you're in a room with someone, ask them to pour into you a little bit. Offer them something. Take the weight off their shoulders so that when you come into the room, the headphones aren't getting pulled off slow. Maybe it's the wrong time. Maybe you need to catch them on a Saturday. Maybe you need to be able to, ultimately just Help them understand the unique value proposition that you have to offer and how your skill set can take more off their plate instead of putting more onto it. Rule number 4, lend a hand before borrowing one. Be the lender and not the borrower. You got to come back at another time to get the rest of the rules. But that's the rule that I thought about with this episode. To be the lender and not the borrower, owing the wrong person can cost you more than debt. So when you are reaching out, you're looking for mentorship, you're looking to be cultivated, you're looking to be poured into, make sure you're adding value. And as you stay with us over these next several episodes, I promise you, you will not be the same person when you're done. Why? I've studied some of the greatest folks out here, the Robert Kiyosaki's and Rich Dad, Poor Dads, the Robert F. Greens and the 48 Laws of Power and Mastery. These are different books that you can read that can truly help you if you know how to apply them the right way. And some of them will teach you what not to do. I don't want to make anyone upset. Shout out to 50 Cent and Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. But when I read 48 Laws of Power, I was too young. I was 19. I'm like, ooh, this is how people think, man. People are evil. I read it again when I was 23. I had a better understanding that I didn't have to apply everything I read. But when I got a little bit older, it was just good to know what people know. In 48 Laws of Power, rule number 1 says, never outshine the master, right? So if somebody's really good at something, never bite the hand that feeds you. You don't have to try to poo-poo on them, right? But there's another rule that says, let someone else do all the work and you take all the credit. I decided to invert that rule. I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to give all the credit. I'm going to build capacity in my team to drive for results by making them feel good. This is not like a soccer game where all the kids are bunching, trying to get at the soccer ball and we're all clapping. This ain't that. Right? What I'm sharing with you is there are specific things you want to see out of your teammates, out of your children, out of your spouses, and you have to cultivate them to encourage them. It is better to win with milk and honey than to rule with the iron fist. That's rule number 3 in the book of Montreal. So if you're showing love, you're adding value, you're lending a hand rather than borrowing one, the things that you seek are already yours. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys today. My name is Montreal Cain, and these are the rules of engagement.